From Troy Public Radio, this is Alabama Aloud. I'm Don Noble. Alabama Aloud is the only podcast where you can hear Alabama stories read in their entirety. Today, I'll be reading Coach by Thom Gossom, Jr. Thom Gossom Jr. was raised in Birmingham and then went on to play football at Auburn and to become the first African-American athlete to graduate from that school. He told the story of that part of his life in the memoir, Walk On, My Reluctant Journey to Integration at Auburn University. Gossom worked as an actor for many years with a recurring role in the Heat of the Night, then turned to writing fiction. Being a head coach is always stressful, but taking over from a legend is cruelly daunting. In Gossom's story, Coach, we are let inside the mind of the new coach in the minutes before opening kickoff of his first game. The story, Coach, was published in the 2015 collection, Another Slice of Life, and is read here by permission of the author. Coach took it all in. Footballs spiraled upward, projectiles hurling toward the indoor roof. Wide receivers like racehorses pranced on fast feet. Offensive linemen grunted like hogs feeding at the trough. Defenders eager to crush someone worked themselves into a maddening froth. The enemy, dressed in yellow and gold, their shiny yellow jacket symbol plastered across their helmets, grunted, snorted, pranced, and pumped adrenaline in return. Coach stood in the middle of the 50-yard line, his feet firmly planted in the logo of the Alabama Tech Spiders. His black Spiders cap was pulled low over his eyes, which were covered by deep, dark tinted shades. Coach sported his own Nike brand of shoe. The designer shirt tucked into his fitted coach's pants accented his well-built body. Cameras and flashbulbs clicked and flashed all around him. Coach could have been a Hollywood star. The new controversial Dome Stadium in downtown Birmingham, Alabama, rocked with excitement. The pomp and circumstance of the televised game played out before national television cameras. The game day television crew primped for the makeup people. The sold-out crowd of 72,000 color-coordinated fans, some drunk on alcohol, others drunk on the historic moment, worked themselves into a frenzy. Shirtless fraternity boys paraded colored signs declaring, "Sting the Yellow Jackets" and "Smash the Spiders." The Alabama Tech fans danced to James Brown's "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." "Say it loud," the Tech band bellowed above the music. "I'm black and I'm proud," came the response from the Tech fans. The Birmingham Post-Dispatch morning headline of September 5, 2012 described it as "The Day That Saves Birmingham." The paper read, "The debut of the new coach and the unveiling of the domed stadium in beleaguered downtown Birmingham will finally erase the Johannesburg of the South reputation Birmingham deservedly earned in the 1960s during its days of civil rights demonstrations and church bombings." No one in the state of Alabama would forget this day. "Hey, Coach," the zebra-striped black umpire with a huge grin on his face called out. The umpire gave Coach a fist bump. "You ready for today?" he asked. Coach grinned and nodded. The two men faced off. The umpire's eyes flashed hope and faith rewarded. Coach's eyes said he understood. A young female public relations representative hustled 6 cameramen onto the field. The cameramen snapped photos of the coach until the PR woman, checking her expensive Spiders watch, hustled the cameramen off the field. Coach understood. He had become a celebrity the day he was hired. Paul D. Jones, son of a mill worker, the first black head coach at Alabama Tech, the first black head coach at a major Southern University football factory in the state of Alabama, had become the sports story of the young 21st century. At Alabama Tech, Coach would have a legitimate shot at the conference crown and the BCC national championship. At Tech, he'd be able to recruit the players needed to do both. No less was expected. Alabama Tech's reputation as one of the long-standing powers of college football could make that happen. The day he got the call compared with the day he married his wife Jane, and the day 5 years later when his son Jalen was born. He felt lucky and blessed. Coach had been an All-American quarterback at Illinois. Over the last 5 years, he'd led tiny Henderson College in Illinois to the Division II national championship 3 times. The 2 years they didn't win the championship, they finished second. Other schools called. Coach hired an agent. Most of the perennial losers knocked on his door. The bigger schools that courted him were the underdogs from the Pac-10 and Conference West. But Coach had learned patience from his dad, who'd worked 35 years in the mill on the same job. Just like during his playing days, when as a small high school Southern boy from Louisiana, he'd held out for a school that would let him play quarterback. He held out for a school where he would have a chance to win it all, and he knew he could win it all at Alabama Tech. He'd had to convince his wife, Jane Jones, biracial and middle class from Chicago, that they could move south. She had met her husband in college. She was a beautiful and brainy woman who would pursue a doctorate in education. He was the football star, the quarterback, and later the coach. They became a dynamic duo. A dean at Henderson College, Dr. Jane, as she was known, had no desire to live anywhere near the state of Alabama. She had learned to tolerate Louisiana. When she traveled there with her white mother, she got stares of disbelief and prolonged looks that ignorance breeds. She'd never been to Alabama, and like most people, when it came to the state, she made her judgment on history and hearsay. She refused to consider it. Coach turned the job down. He underestimated the Alabama Tech president, Mark Warren. Warren, a liberal, even in his college days at Tech, whereas president of the student body, he, by himself, picketed the local country club where he found out his black friends were prohibited from playing golf there, would not give up. He insisted on heading up a one-man committee to hire the coach, that one man being himself, and he further insisted Paul was the best fit for the job. Privately, he told Paul, "It's time, and you're the guy to do it." Warren walked a slippery slope, and he knew it. If this move turned out to be a mistake, his career was over. A calculating man, Warren was also at that point in his career where he was ready to go out with a big bang. He had his sights set on his man, and he was going to get him. Warren called mornings, afternoons, and nights. The answer was always the same: no. Warren was tactical. He called the house line, increasing his chances of speaking with Jane and Jalen, unleashing his charm. In a voice as southern as grits and sweet as molasses, Warren assured them all that Coach Paul is our man. He refused to interview anyone else. Coach, intrigued, did his homework. He made a list of pros and cons. There were many pros and one big con, the issue of race. He talked to coaches, black and white. They typically responded, "Why put yourself and your family through that? This isn't just about race. This is about a college football culture that dominates the way of life. It's religion. You won't have a private moment. You will never be able to meet the expectations." Coach consulted his dad. "Go for it if you want it," his dad encouraged. His mother-in-law told him, "Follow your heart." Not sure of his answer, Coach again told Warren, no. Warren turned loose the big guns on his coach. He recruited the rich boosters who fueled the football program, the good old boys. They announced they didn't want to deal with no damn civil rights interviews and all that crap. The boosters also warned, if he turns out to not be worth a damn, you can never fire him. Fire a black guy, and it'll bring up all that civil rights crap again. Warren refused to listen. He enjoyed great support from the student body, the faculty, and the board of trustees. They saw the benefits Coach could bring to the university. Warren had the whip hand. Warren informed the boosters either it was Jones or he would hire a Yankee, someone totally unrelated to the program that would cut off the good old boys' access to the athletic department. The boosters bowed. The boosters threw money at Coach Paul like it was government cheese. They committed their considerable weight on any issue he might need help with. Coach could bring any assistant coaches he wanted, including the 2 black offensive and defensive coordinators who had been his longtime friends. Privately, Coach raised the issue of black quarterbacks and the quarterback controversy that follows an average black quarterback versus an average white quarterback who earns his job and keeps it throughout his career. He reminded them that the school had not recruited him as a quarterback. The white and black groups also wanted different things from him. The white groups were interested in winning, period. Winning games was the mandate. There would be no grace period, no replenishing the depleted recruiting stock. Win and win now was the mantra. The black groups saw a historical milestone. The black group meetings were more like revivals with gospel singing and people praying over the new coach. Coach took home more fried chicken dinners than he could ever eat. Early on, Coach proved he could recruit, and not only the top black kids. He signed the top white kid out of the state of Alabama, beating both Auburn and Alabama. The white kid, Raymond Baugh, said, "I want to be a part of it." His mom, an Auburn graduate, and his dad, an Alabama graduate, echoed the sentiment. His mom said on television, "We fell in love with Coach Paul." Coach said the right things at Booster Club meetings. He said the right things on ESPN. He looked great in the gold and purple of Alabama Tech. His wife and son were adjusting and happy. Jane had declared Birmingham's hills and greenery as beautiful. She was also pregnant. Coach had the job of a lifetime. Coach still would have to win many of the big money boosters over. There were still many private social functions where neither he nor they felt comfortable in having him there. He was not one of them. They were stuck in the good old days, and in private it was whispered that Coach was not humble enough, not grateful enough, uppity. Coach had to win. Nothing else mattered, and for them, he had better win every game. Jimmy Jackson, a quarterback, the fastest player on the team, and barring injury, a surefire All-American and future NFL player, ran up to the coach, his gold grill shining in his mouth. Jimmy had been Coach's first big signee. Coach had won over his grandfather, Truck, and had stolen him from both Auburn and the University of Alabama. The 2 traditional schools were unsure about Jimmy's background and hesitated when Jimmy, who in their minds fit wide receiver better than quarterback, told them he wanted to start at quarterback for 3 years and would not play wide receiver. Coach saw his own potential in Jimmy. He assured Jimmy and Truck that Jimmy was a quarterback. "Good luck, Coach," Jimmy grinned. Coach offered a fist bump. Jimmy wrapped him up in a bear hug. "We're going to get them for you, Coach," he whispered in Coach's ear. Coach Paul wanted the game to start. Hurry, he thought, staring at the clock. The last few minutes had been a blur. The teams left the field for their last meeting with the coaches. Coach walked off the field with Jalen, the surreal scene reeling through his mind. He safely tucked the images away for a Saturday decades from now when he would look back. He decided to low-key it with the boys. They were ready. He didn't want to overhype the situation. The players sat attentive, nervous, twitching, every eye on their coach. Coach finished with, "We're all in it together. When we look back, we'll appreciate what we do today, together." Running onto the field, Coach Paul was stopped for the customary ESPN interview. It was anything but customary. The long-winded sideline reporter, a blonde woman too hyped up in the moment, wound around and around before coming to the question she had been prepped to ask. How does it feel today to be opening a new domed stadium and to be a head football coach at Alabama Tech in the state of Alabama? Coach Paul gave the right answer. It will feel better when we win. Coach wanted to win. He needed to win. All the ceremonies, goodwill, and money would mean nothing if he didn't win. Coach had ditched his phone early that morning, as it continually rang, buzzed, and vibrated with calls, emails, and texts. His mentor from his college days, the legendary Bobby Windham, the winningest coach in college football, reminded him to focus on the game. Nothing else matters. Coach eyed the clock. He wanted it to move. He needed it to move. Let's get the game started, he thought. He found Jane in the stands on the 50-yard line. She had turned down the chance to sit in the boxes with the dignitaries. Jane reminded them, "We didn't have boxes at Henderson." Mark Warren and his wife Betty sat next to Jane. Mark was as happy as the day he'd finally integrated the country club. Coach didn't see Jalen. Where was Jalen? Jalen found his dad. Running up to Coach, he hugged his dad and would not let go. Jalen's new best friend, Toby, Mark Warren's grandson, joined in what became a three-way hug. "Ready, Daddy?" Jalen asked. Coach held on tightly to his son and Toby. The ESPN cameras captured the moment. A tear mustered its way into Coach's eye. Coach pushed his son and Toby back before the tear could fall. He could not tear up here in front of 30 million people on primetime television. The thud of the kickoff sent the leather spiral of a ball sailing end over end in the lights of the dome. Coach, relieved, watched the ball twirl. Finally, the game had started. The story, Coach, was published in the 2015 collection Another Slice of Life and is read here by permission of the author. We hope you don't keep Alabama Aloud all to yourself. Subscribe to our podcast and share it with a friend. Better yet, write us a review in the iTunes store. It helps other people find the podcast. Also, give us a shout-out on social media. Alabama Aloud is a production of Troy Public Radio and produced by Austin Toy and Kyle Gassett. Special thanks to Matt Clower, Buddy Johnson, and Michelle Mowry. Alabama Aloud is made possible in part by a grant from Alabama State Council on the Arts. So, until next time, when you'll hear more of Alabama Read Aloud, I'm Don Noble. Thanks for listening.